that it's a nice surprise. The national agency prepared something really nice for us, so I don't think you'll regret if you join. Sorry? Photo? Fado. You have to know, Fado is typical from Lisbon and from Coimbra, not from all Portugal. But we can see it's the last day. My colleagues are starting to roast me here on stage. They don't care. But I heard that in the national agency there's really good voices, so maybe they can sing for us. I don't know, just saying, just putting it out there. Other announcements for today. Please, if you can, I know we are a bit tired and we want to talk with each other, but try to be on time for the different activities. Otherwise, we are making everybody wait. I know it's not very easy all the time. I've been there, so I know how it is, but let's make an effort, one last effort, to be on time on the activity, especially from our colleagues, the tool workshops, the tool to explore. Somebody was asking, will we get youth passes? Yes, after 2 years, youth pass is still a thing. You can still get a youth pass. The way the national agency will organize it is that you will get an invitation in the next days. You can fill in your self-assessment if you want. And in a month, the Portuguese NA will send the certificates, the youth pass certificates, to everyone with or without a self-assessment, depending if you did it or not. All right? If you have more questions about what is Youth Pass, if you're not acquainted with it, you can go to the EU hotspot at 2:30, and they can also inform you more about it. All right? And just an information about tomorrow. And now I get everybody thinking about their departure. Tomorrow you check out, the checkout is until 12. And if you need to leave your luggage, there will be a luggage room if you want to stroll around and then come back for it. All right? And there's still breakfast, of course. Anything I forgot? Any announcements you want to make? Something you lost? Something you found? Not now. No? Yes. All right, if somebody else knows. Very good. So are we ready for the TF Talk? All right, let me present. So today's TF Talker is a parent, a grandparent, no, not a grandparent, a youth worker, a Liverpool supporter, a tea drinker, an avid book reader of non-fiction, humor and music lover, occasional author, sometimes a trainer, sometimes a facilitator, but always passionate, advocating for international youth work. Ladies and gentlemen, our dear colleague, Fergal Barr. Good luck.
We had to pre-arrange that Anita doesn't go off the stage with this. Anita says, "Are you ready?" And I think about 4 people said, "Yay!" So, not a sign. I like the idea of being a grandfather and youth worker. It's a new concept. So if there are any other ones, we'll be having a private session later on to talk about what it means to be. You can see the title, Shiny, Sophisticated New Tools. This is the last thing we need, which might be a little bit controversial to say that. So this might be my first and last ever talk at a tool fair. So I want to be very clear about what it is not. It is not a criticism of tools or methodologies or models of practice, any of that. It is not a criticism of creativity or innovation, the entrepreneurial spirit or imagination. I positively embrace them all. In fact, humans would not be where we are today. We would not have all of this without any of that. So it's really important to acknowledge what it's not before I begin. What I believe, though, is that we've lost sight of what is really our primary purpose in youth work. Or we've taken our eye, we've lost a bit of focus on it. Which for me, particularly in this moment, in this era, in this post-COVID emerging context from it, is that we are not providing enough spaces for conversations. And one of the reasons I say that is that I believe that we are on the treadmill of production. We've become almost absorbed with the idea of having purpose. This is the first large-scale, in-person event in youth work, the international youth work, European youth work, since COVID begun. And we are back on the treadmill. We are here to show tools. We are here to show all the things that we are working on. Might it have been a better space for reflection? Might it have been an opportunity just to have a conversation about what the last 18 months have been about? One of the key events in the last 18 months, apart from COVID and apart from the fallout of Brexit, has been BLM. Everyone knows what it stands for. Look around this room. Do you see a black face? I don't see one. Often I don't see any at any of the large-scale events. Very few. Does that mean black people are not practicing youth work? Is this a question we should be asking? I believe we exist in a bit of a bubble in youth work. We're so focused on what we are doing that we don't take time to ask really important, sometimes difficult and uncomfortable questions. So for me, those kind of questions are the key things. I think we have forgotten the fundamentals. And I will come to the fundamentals in a little while. I will tell you what they are. I give them a nice name because when you create something, if you create a tool or a model of practice, you've got to give it a nice name. I was introduced as a parent and a grandparent. And I say that more now than ever. I don't say and really introduce myself as a trainer. I put it in because that's what the kind of profession expects. Trainer, facilitator. Why I base my claim on what I am saying today is not so much around that. It's experience. I've been in youth work since I left school. I fell into youth work by accident. That was 34 years ago, and I'm still here. So I say it because of age, and not to sound like a grumpy old man getting a bit cynical, but because I observe certain things. I see conversations repeating themselves. I see new tools dressed up in a different format. I see the emperor wearing new clothes, if you want to look at it like that. Youth work exists, I believe, somewhat in a bubble, and I think we need to burst it a little. If we look at the external context for a moment, there are many key things, challenges that we are facing. We're all trying to, in some ways, address it in our own way, through the production of tools. The population of the Earth, because that's the only Earth I know, the population of Earth in the last century doubled, in the last half century, doubled by 2.5 times. By 2050, it's estimated there'll be another 2 billion people on the planet. That poses lots of challenges, and we are here making tools. We're not having conversations about the big things. That might sound a little bit controversial and critical. I don't say that because I'm in youth work 34 years. I'm passionate about my profession, but I sometimes think we take our eye off the ball. In that time that the population has increased by 2.5 times, food production has increased, tripled. So, more people, and we're making much more food. We're eating much more, which, as you know, has caused also a global epidemic of obesity. What has coincided with that is our sleeping patterns have changed. We sleep less quality sleep, and we often choose to do that. I do that on a regular basis. I find it hard to sleep before midnight. And among the other things that we're facing is that there's been more borders built after the year 2000, borders and fences, than there was before. Something to think about. What are we doing? Consumption. We, as a population, are consuming 30% more than the planet can produce. There are less than 60 harvests left where the topsoil, Earth's topsoil, will be fit to grow food. And we're here making tools. We're here talking about tools. So we have major challenges to think about. The wealth of this world, 0.1, a tenth of 1%, own 90% of the world's wealth. In 1971, that 0.1%, owned 7%. They now, in 2012, it was 22%. These things are happening outside, and you may wonder, what is the connection? For me, it's staring us in the face. These are major challenges. Those are just some of them. There are endless other challenges you could probably think of. So for me, the importance, I don't want to sound as if I'm dismissing tools. I'm not. It's really important, and I'm delighted to be here. And I say it was great to be invited to speak. But I wonder, might have been better just to have a conversation about all that has happened, even in the last 18 months, before starting to think about the tools again. I don't believe we have actually reflected. Anita was talking about reflection. There's a period for reflection today. That's timely. But what about the last 18 months? Who is not here because of COVID? And I don't mean they weren't selected or they couldn't come because of rules. I mean, who do you know is not here because of COVID among your colleagues? Who has died? I have no idea on this planet who in youth work has died. No one has talked about that. Perhaps no one, but I would ask the question anyway. The results we have in this world, greater inequality. It's proven, studies have shown that if there's greater equality in countries, then people's lives are, of course, better, but much more healthy. Inequality is bad for us all. We have an epidemic of stress. We talk about a pandemic for COVID. We have an epidemic of obesity, epidemic of stress. Polarization was mentioned at a couple of workshops I was at. We have urban versus rural. We have college-educated versus non-college educated. We have conservative versus liberal. We have a bit of a cultural war going on. And we can pretend somewhat that we're doing wonderful things, and we are. But we also have to remember what is going on outside. Climate change, I don't have to say much about it. By 2030, we may have already been too late. We may have passed the point of no return. That's the prediction. If we hit 2 degrees, it's going to be we would have to reduce, I think, 2/3 of our consumption just to be on target by 2030. Otherwise, some people in this room, possibly, will have to move house because they will be underwater. We have an aging population. After 2050, there will be more old people than young people. 1 in 5 is estimated to have dementia. So 20 people in this room will have dementia. And let me tell you, it's an awful disease. My mother has it. You do not want to be there. So we have many, many challenges, and we need to think about those things. Tools is a wonderful thing to have, but it's a way of getting there. We have pervasive technology. Every facet of our life is technological now. Look around you. Who here posted from the airport that they were going to the tool fair? Put your hands up. Who here posted since they've been in the tool fair? Who here has posted that they're in the tool fair? Who here posted that they were coming to listen to a wonderful talk this morning? Thank you, David. So, everything. Who here saw friends you might know, and you go, wow, that looks like the person sitting across the room for me, because your phones is doing all the business. We have this pervasive technology. Part of the impact of that, and talking of technology, let's hope it works. I want to quickly, I should point it in the right way. That's good. So some of the things I want to just mention. I was thinking about this talk, and I wanted to put it in context, and I'll come to my main message in a moment, because I think Erasmus Plus and this world that we exist in is not isolated, is influenced by it. We have become very corporatized in many ways, I think. But some of the things, we have a degenerative approach to life and those around us. Individualism, competition, the fix-you mentality. Go into any airport, decent airport, and there's a complete section of books you can buy about how your life is, and you need to fix yourself. We have growing isolation and a disconnect to one another. We are more connected than ever, and we are least connected than ever. We have an increase in speed that we can't keep up with. Our brain has only doubled in size in the last 1.2 million years. In the last 20 years. Today, you will take in potentially more information in one day than your grandparents or your great-grandparents took in a year. So we're surrounded by it. We take it in all the time. How many times do you touch your phone per day? You know, this kind of thing. We have a pervasive collective narcissism. I asked that question about what have you posted since? And I asked the question, why do you post? Why do you feel the need to tell people you're at the airport, you're going to ToolFair? Why do you feel, don't answer the question, it's for thinking about it. Why do you feel the need to share that? Why? Is it important people know you're at the ToolFair? For the nationalists. Okay, maybe so. But why do you want people to know? We have increasing levels of stress, as I mentioned. We are addiction to our screens. In the States, the United States, it's estimated that if you use your screen about 2 hours per day, that's okay. Over that, that's fine. In the United States, kids are estimated to use their screens 6 to 7 hours per day, and that's not including school. So we have an addiction to our screens. We have a dilution of our mental capacity. With so much information now, it's hard to make decisions. We have decreasing levels of meaningful engagement with others. We don't spend time. We came here for ToolFair. Maybe if we'd been invited just to an open, come and meet and reflect with your colleagues, perhaps that might have been a better use of time. And we have illusion versus reality. I want to share a statistic with you. Between 2009 and 2012 in the UK, 4,628 minors, young people under the age of 18, some as young as 5, committed 5,062 sex crimes, which means that young people access their phone, they get pornography, etc., etc. They look at it, this is how they think it is. So what's happening? Let me fast forward a little bit to Erasmus+. Between October of last year and 13th of September this year, there were 292 calls through Salto. I'm one of those sad people that actually counts them. I think I got most of them. I went back through them recently to check that I did. Of those calls, for different programs, of those calls, 25 were from national agencies for things like digital facilitators, moderators, creators, facilitators, trainers. So at least 267. Of the 267, 38 were the usual suspects. Yokomo, Appetizer, Eyeliner, all the ones that are standard, tic-tac in this. At least 229. I went through and tried to work out what was all the themes. 90 themes is what I counted. 90. I tried to categorize them as best as possible. 90 themes across 229 programs. That sounds impressive. Actually, you can look at it. It's very diverse, and it's very reflective of the imagination and the creativity in the sector. 70 of those calls were for 5 themes: digital youth work, volunteering, improv theater. So that leaves 159, of which there were 85 themes. So my question is, have we stretched so far? Has youth work become so diluted that we're trying to be all things to everyone? Of those calls, if you take the 267, 17%, 45, were for youth work. If you remove the calls for Yokomo and Appetizer and all that, 3%, 7 calls out of the 229 were about youth work. So what are we becoming? Toolbox. According to the Salto website, there's 2,195 tools, of which 702 have been accessed. That means 68% of tools that are created are not being accessed. I also create tools. Earlier this year, I had to do one for my previous job. Beautiful 140 pages. I have no idea if anyone will ever read it, but I did it. I had to. I was at the Focus Learning Conference recently, the 2-day event. Some of you might have been joining there also online. 105 people were there the first day. 18% described themselves as youth workers. 49% described themselves as trainer, mentor, coach, educator of youth workers. So there was more people teaching youth workers about youth work than actually doing youth work. Have we become all things to everyone? I believe our approach has become something about trying to fix the future as opposed to being in the present and trying to look and fix the present. These are some of the existing tools that don't require a lot of resources. Play. Kids play much less now, and a lot of the K is play dates. I didn't have play dates when I was a kid. I didn't have many dates when I was a kid. Play. Wonderful thing. Kids don't do it much now. If they do it, it's in the bedroom. That sounds awful. But if they play, it's like playing on their screens, computer games. Nature. We know the benefits of nature. We need to do more of it. Storytelling. Let's hear our individual stories. We need to tell each other stories, particularly in a post-COVID-19 context. We need to talk about our experiences, and we need to examine anti-fragility. We've become very fragile. We're in the age of anger now. Everybody's angry. We're losing our resilience, or people of a certain age are. We need to be less fragile. Our ability to critically think now. We just, Facebook targets us and shares only the information of our colleagues. The echo chamber. Contentment. We're always looking for happiness. Why don't we just be content? Why don't we encourage people we work with about being content? Reach for contentment, not happiness. Happiness is somewhere there, and people are always trying to get there. We don't have enough music, or we don't listen to enough. We don't laugh enough. And anyone knows me I'm passionate about humor. I have a humor training program. And so for me, it's in my DNA, and it's something that I do. And it's the most important free natural resource that we have as practitioners. Dance, we don't dance enough. Although I saw Anita dancing earlier on, trying to get you all dancing. I think there's 2 roles for youth worker as practitioner. There's the role that you play with young people. And I always had this conflict when I was younger. How much political do I become? So I always tried to facilitate a learning journey with young people, help them make healthy, informed decisions. I don't tell them what to do, but I help present the options and hope that they make an informed decision at least, even if it's not the one I think is the best one. But that's democracy. They need to make it. But at least I can help facilitate the process. So that role still exists. But I think now we have to be youth worker as politician. There's a whole lot of stuff going on outside. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of madness. And here we are in a nice cocoon, and it's nice to be sharing the cocoon. But often we are still in that bubble, and we need to think, what do we really need to address? What are the questions we really need to examine? We got back on the production treadmill. The first opportunity to meet for 18 months, where are we? We're examining tools again. Where's the reflection? Where is the conversations? When do we spend time with people? Just appreciating what has happened. I'm going to talk to you about what I believe. I think we've forgotten the fundamentals. So let me tell you what I think they are, and I give them a fancy name. It's what you do in youth work. If you have a new model of practice, a new tool, you give it a fancy name. So I call them the 6 R's. And you can take these with you, and I invite you to think about these. And I invite you to start using them more often. It's not a statement on whether you're using them or not. It's just I invite you as a broad brush approach. Reception. Young people, all of us actually, humans, the need to be heard. The need to have a voice. So when I speak, someone needs to receive the signal and vice versa. Like a radio. You transmit, you hope someone picks it up. Recognition, the need to be visible, to exist. Not that I suddenly go, hey, Anita, because I recognize her. I mean Anita as a human being. She exists, and we don't ensure people exist enough. Joe talked about the lack of inclusion. I concur that maybe we need to think about that as well. Reassurance, the one thing proven by studies and research is even if young people don't have their parents on their side, all they need is one supportive adult to be reassured on whatever journey they're on. And if they have that, chances are they will come through whatever difficulties and challenges they are facing. Reputation, the need to be known for something, that you have value. We are taught every time that we need to be known for something. You need to find meaning in your life. You need to get the great job. You need to blah, 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 blah. So people need value. They need value and they need to be valued. Reflection, the need to change course. The need to know that you can think and feel differently. Our brains look for patterns. They look for consistency. We all do it. So when we change, it feels a little awkward, and sometimes we're not allowed to because convention says we are not allowed to. So we need to know that we can change through reflection. And finally, recourse, the need to know that there is a way back, that you can save face. Often we make decisions, we put ourselves into a corner, we backed in, we don't know how to get out. So we need to know how to do that. So for me, I'm sure that you're practicing maybe all of these or some of these, but there's a need to do a little more of this and a little less of the tools. And again, it's not a criticism of the tools. I want to be clear about that. I've created tools in the past, earlier this year. So, to reinforce the message that Joe said on Monday, the greatest tool we have is us. I've always believed this. I rarely use tools. I use some of them in my humor program that we do. But I ultimately believe that in that process, that we have the most natural resource that we can be. Us. We are the tool. In native English language, sometimes being called a tool is not so nice, actually. I see Susie is laughing, and she can... But we are the ultimate resource. We should not be depending on tools. We should really remember this is our primary purpose. So I invite you to do that. I want to invite you. I want to, a lot of invitations. I want to finish with a quote. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and we feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness. More than machinery, we need humanity. I love. It epitomizes for me what I'm talking about. Does anyone know where this quote is from? Correct. From the last great dictator, Charlie Chaplin. Wonderful speech. If anyone has ever heard it, it's fantastic. 1940, 80 years ago. And it resonates as much today as it did then, and it's a film. So I invite you to practice a little bit more of the 6 hours. I invite you to use less machinery and less tools, and to adopt you more as the resource, the tool, to get to where we need to be, and not to keep doing it within the bubble, and invite you to stretch yourself a little bit further. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Fergal. Thank you. Okay, that's a lot of food for thought.